Welcome to the Coming Out FI podcast, where we talk all things financial independence, breaking down complicated financial concepts to their basic components and using the tools available to build a foundation of financial literacy. We will also explore the mindset and lifestyle changes required to reach financial independence. We are your hosts, Kelsey and Cassia.
Hello everyone!
Hey everybody! Welcome to episode 5 of the Coming Out FI podcast. Today we are going to be talking about marriage and money and how they interact with each other.
How one affected the other one.
Yeah.
Before we start, I'd like to invite everyone who's listening to us on the Spotify or any app they use for podcasts.
Stitcher, whatever the other ones are.
Yeah, to also follow us on our YouTube channel.
If you want to see our faces, you see us talk to each other.
Yeah, you can watch the video version of the same podcast.
Yep.
All right, let's start.
Okay.
So today I separate for us an article from a group of researchers. Lauren Papp, she's a PhD student, Mark Cummins, and Mary Gook-Moray, where they discuss about the relationship between money and marital conflict.
And marital conflict, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Here we go.
I think it was a really interesting research. Basically what they did is that they choose 100 husbands and 100 wives, and they wrote diary, where in this diary they kind of describe their conflict, their marriage conflict. And in the end of this research, they get together the group and discuss what they wrote about.
Were they married?
Yes.
Okay, 100 husband and wives.
Yes.
Okay.
So 100 men and 100 women.
That were married to each other.
100 couples. Yes.
Okay, 100 couples. There we go.
So husbands, the age go between 25 to 50.
Okay.
And the same for the wives.
Okay.
And they say 94% of the husbands were Caucasian.
Okay.
And 6 were Afro-American. And for the wives, 93 are Caucasian and 6 were Afro-American and 1 was biracial. So that's the kind of the method. So based on the wives' report, they say that one couple earned less than $10,000 per year.
Sorry, when did they do this?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I forgot a small detail. So this research...
So if it's like 1970, it's a little different.
Yeah, that's actually true. So the research was conducted between 1999 and 2000.
Okay, so $10,000 might have gone a little bit further in those times, but it probably wasn't the same as making $80,000 a year right now.
Yeah.
So a small amount of money.
And one couple make between $10,000 and $25,000. 23 couples make between $25,000 and $40,000. 45 between $40,000 and $65,000. And 18 between $65,000 to $80,000. And 12 make more than $80,000.
Okay.
So that was the average of the group they study. So basically, what they're going to be discussing is, what they're interested in figuring out is if money is one of the big reasons for conflict in marriage, and also if money can be related to divorce.
Okay.
So I think it's an interesting topic for us to be discussing because we're a couple. We understand how money can affect our relationship and how can that affect our marriage, and can also be interesting for other people who's listening to this podcast who is also in a relationship.
Yeah, any type of relationship that
money can be a situation where they can share their finances.
Exactly.
Right? And if we are here to think about ways of saving money, if we're here to think about ways we can improve our quality of life and how money can help on that, I think it's interesting to understand how that can affect our most closest relationship. That's with our partner.
Okay, yeah. Our most intimate, close relationships.
Exactly. So this article, they start talking about, for most of the research out there, is still needing law development, especially in the beginning of 2000s.
Yeah.
Right? Let's talk about that research in the 2000s. But they say most of the news or press that was published based on this kind of topic, they always see money as one of the most common source of couples' disagreements.
Okay.
And eventual divorce. What's your opinion about that in general? How do you think money can affect a marital relationship?
I mean, I think it can, just in general, we talked about in the last episode how it can really contribute to stress. Mm-hmm. And we know that stress, if you're really stressed about something, that can impact your relationships. And I mean, lead to arguments.
Yeah.
You know, if people aren't on the same page with money, mm-hmm. and money is so, it like pervades every aspect of our life, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you need to work. Why do you work? To make money. Why mm-hmm. do you make money? So you can like live in the house or eat, have your groceries, mm-hmm. or spend your time how you want. I think if those are competing with each other, you know, one of them wants to blow all the money, go buy a bunch of clothes every mm-hmm. weekend, and the other person's working and trying to save, that other person can feel like, wow, my sacrifices and my hard work does nothing because mm-hmm. you're not even on the same page as me. I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
And I really think it's important for the couple to have kind of the same goal or the same perspective when they're talking about money.
Exactly.
Because I think that can be the main point of arguing. Mm-hmm. Because dealing with money in general is stressful. Yeah. If you don't have a lot of money.
Right. If you're trying to manage it and if it's like impacting how you spend your time. Yeah. So
I think if the couple as individuals have different perspectives or goals or what they want to do with their own life, that can lead to arguing and can lead to divorce in a meaning of stress that can become when they talk about money. Right.
Well, I was looking at this one Forbes article, Forbes magazine, you mm-hmm. know, and it was 10 ways to prevent money from ruining your marriage. And that was number 4. The thing that you just said is set your eyes on the same prize. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't have the same goals, what are you working for? Mm-hmm. You know, if they're very different.
And I think it's interesting to say, even though couple has the same goals, can also be hard. Imagine when they have different goals. I think, for example, right? We can talk about our own life. We have the same goal of the same lifestyle we want, where we want to be in a couple of years, the style of life we want to live. But how I deal with money, how that affects me is totally different from you because we're different people.
Right.
We have different perspectives, we have different ways of dealing with emotions. And that can lead to arguing some points. But what helps us to solve the arguing and kind of find a balance again is because we have the same goal. Mm-hmm. Then we can one of us, we need to kind of like
get the other back on track.
Exactly. Right? Or like give up sometimes to make the other person more happy. Mm-hmm. That's because we have the same goal. But that's just normal. It's a relationship. Yeah. One side wants something, the other side wants something different. Then you can argue. Sometimes it can be stressful, but you can get a main point again.
Yeah.
But when the couple has so different views, so different perspectives, I believe it's harder for one of them to give up their point of view or their arguing to make the other happy.
Oh, yeah. Or to see the other
other perspective.
Other perspective, exactly. Yeah.
So it's interesting because they're showing a lot of reviews, a lot of magazines from the 90s. They're talking about how marital conflict, money, was leading to divorce, right? And they say that similarly, that was being shown in the research in the psychological field, indicating that money is a central issue to couple relationships from the earliest years of partnerships to the process of divorce. So money was a common thing since the beginning until the divorce.
It's like a central part.
Oh, the central part.
Which I believe, because I feel like money is a central part of life in the world we live in. Mm-hmm. It is.
I think it's interesting because I remember the quote. I grew up with the quote that money doesn't buy happiness.
Okay.
And I do think it's a lie. I do think it's a lie in the meaning of everything you do in your society we need money. If you want to go on a trip, if you want to go eat in a nice restaurant, if you want to have some nice clothes, or if you just want to travel all over the world and have a good quality of healthcare, good quality of like taking care of yourself, your hair, your nails, everything is money related.
If our society ran off of anything other than money, our lives would be surrounded by that.
Yeah.
If it revolved around cups,
yeah, exactly.
You would want as many cups as you had.
I do think it doesn't mean having money will make you happy, because I think a lot of people have a lot of money and are unhappy, because I also think a lot of mental health can be related, can be a factor in your happiness. But I do think having money can make your life easier to allow you to be happier or have happier moments.
So you were talking about the people who have money and they're unhappy. I don't think the money made them unhappy. I think it's the lifestyle that they live. If you work so many hours that you don't have time to eat well, you don't have time to go exercise or see the sun or like have just even relationships with people, just general social interactions, then I think that can lead to unhappiness.
And I also think your goals, like your ethic, what you think is important for your life, that also is a factor in happiness that's not related to money. So that's why sometimes I feel like rich people who have enough money, that they think that we would think they're happy, but they're not. We have other factors in the game, like what they want, what kind of personality they have, what kind of people they are. So I'm not saying like just because you have money you will be happy. What I'm saying is like money can help you to have happier moments in your life.
Yeah, less stress if you don't have
especially in a relationship. I think if money is not a factor that will count in your relationship when you make decisions, or when you are trying to achieve some goals or like dreams in your relationship, that will make things easier.
Yeah.
Continue with this research. I think it's really interesting because the spouse, they are asked to rate their own and their partner's emotions in the diary.
Okay.
And they wrote this diary first for 15 days. The researchers, they wanted to see how they deal in their normal life, daily life.
Yeah, okay.
So that's why they just did a period of 15 days. So they need to rank their partner emotions of positivity, anger, sadness, fear, and give a scale of 0 to, that means none, to 9, that means high. So basically they will talk about the interactions they have, the conflicts they have, and they will rank how the other person's emotions were related to that conflict. So like we're discussing about like children, for example. That's the one of the things that we're discussing today. And I can rank, say, like in that discussion, I feel sad, almost 9. I can see that my partner felt anger, and I'm going to give you a note, and you are going to do the same.
Okay, so they don't have to rank all of these emotions every time. They say what this person felt and give it a range.
Yeah, they will need to see if it was a positivity and give a rank, or anger, sadness. They name the emotion and give a note.
Okay, yeah.
So it's important to understand that it's any conflict they have.
Yeah.
It's not only conflict about money.
Right, yeah.
Any conflict they have as a couple, they will discuss and they will rank, and you make a note about it in the diary. So the spouse, they also indicated tactics used by themselves and their partners during and at the end of the conflict in home. For example, withdrawal, defensiveness, support, humor, physical distress, physical affection, verbal hostility, and many others. So let's have to say tactics, right?
How they approached the conflict.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's why it was really interesting, this article, when I was reading, to see how people will react and how can be different for the couple.
Yeah.
So like one of the results they start bringing in this article is that the most frequently discussed topic in this relationship was not money.
Oh. Okay.
But that's actually interesting. First, all couples in the research, they are fathers and mother, they're parents.
Yeah,
so
okay.
all of them have kids.
Yeah.
So the number one topic of discussion was children.
Okay.
So when I was reading, I was like disappointed because I was expecting a result, right? But then we will see that money come as a big factor, even though it's not the main topic of discussion.
Okay, yeah.
I think that's when a big flip occurred in the research, because the researchers, they say we are also expecting money
to be the number one cause of discussion,
but was kid. And the next most common topic for both were chores,
cleaning,
communication, and leisure. So the money was in the 6 or the 5 most discussed topic during a marital conflict in home.
Okay.
If you think about, for husbands, there was 18% of the conflicts they have was considered money.
Okay.
For women, was 19.4.
Okay, so not like a ton, like not a ton of percentage. Like
No.
It's not 90%, it's not 80%. It's like less than 20%.
However, that's when the big interesting part occurs in the research, is that the money-related marital conflicts relative to those that did not concern money were described by wives as lasting longer and described by husbands to more likely to be a recurrent rather than a new problem.
Okay.
I think what they're trying to say in this research is, even though money was not the main topic, but was a recurrent topic.
Yeah, it happened all the time. It lasted longer.
And I think that's interesting to consider. If you guys listen to our previous episode about money and stress, we can kind of see how people stay with the money problems years after years, and how this problem continue and grow after decades, and they never get out of the situation. And that kind of, we can see that affecting a marital relationship in the topic of keep happening. Why they keep discussing about the same time over and over?
It means nothing changed, right? Or, I mean, maybe things changed, but it's like different day, same thing. You know, we've had this discussion all the time. It's not exactly the same, but it's still an issue. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because even though, for example, our case, even though we're trying to save, trying to like achieve a point financially in your life, money is also a topic in your conflicts. And if I think about all the topics we discussed about, I think money is definitely the most recurrent one.
Yeah.
Don't you agree?
I agree. I mean, I don't know whose fault that. I think it's
I don't think it's anybody's fault. I think here the idea is just like seeing our relationship as an observer instead of a participant, and seeing the behavior. And when we look at the behavior, we are always discussing about money in the meaning of like, I want to do this, no, I want to do that. And even though we find a middle term, we see a topic that always come back. So imagine for a couple that does have problem with money and don't find a way out of it, right? And I think even though they are like, especially if they have kids, for example, and they have jobs they doesn't like, it's like become even more like a ball of problems that get together with the other conflicts around.
Yeah, money is part of even your children's life. So if you're complaining about the kids, they break this, or they always go out to the mall, they always want to go to the movies, like that costs money. Or vacations, like, or they're never happy when we're on vacation. We try to go on vacation and they were having a grumpy time, but like, why are you mad about that? It's probably because your money goes to buying them, like supporting them going out. It supports them going on the vacation. Like, you work 50 weeks out of the year to, you know, have 2 weeks vacation, and this kid is, you know, it's just like every little thing. I feel like, I don't know, even though they said it wasn't about money, it was about kids, or like, but
I wonder if this kind of related, because if we think about children, they probably mean education of the children, right? Like how they educated the kid. And sometimes that will be related to money. Which school do you put your kids on?
Exactly.
Or like summer camps. Or the best quality of education you can provide.
Yeah, exactly.
And communication. I think communication is definitely a topic that can surround any other conflict.
Sure.
Because how a couple communicate, it will be an issue. It doesn't matter if they're discussing about money, if they're discussing about kids, they're discussing about the sex life. Doesn't matter the topic. Yeah. Communication will always be an issue. So that's why I think it's interesting to see when they talk about the behavior. So when they start discussing money, husbands will say that they respond with anger.
Okay.
For the man, the relationship.
With the husband. The husband.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to see like they describe their first emotion as anger.
Okay.
And a woman described the first emotion as depressive.
Oh, depressive. Okay.
They feel sad.
Because they can't go out and spend this money or something?
I don't think we need to follow the stereotype that man's the one saving and woman's the one spending.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's necessarily true. I think whatever the main reason behind the discussion is that men will answer with angry, and one woman will answer with depression.
Okay.
Even if she's the one trying to save, I think just the conflict about money, most of them will answer as depressive.
Yeah. If talking about money brings out these emotions in you, that can also lead to problems, right? Like, if you wake up with a discussion about money and the husband's angry and the wife is depressed, then that doesn't lead for a good day either. You know?
And that definitely doesn't lead for a good relationship.
Exactly.
And I think that's why the number of divorce more and more is related to money. Just because I also think could be, I cannot say 100% sure, I'm not a specialist, but I wonder if that's related to the fact that because their husband respond with anger, that's why their woman will answer in a depressive way. Because to try to contain the conflict and not keep discussing and make the level of discussion even harder, they prefer to shut down to avoid a continued discussion, and that lead to depression.
I see.
You know what I'm saying? I think that can be a relationship, can be like a relation between the two topics. And it's interesting to see that showing up in the research.
Yeah. Because
at the same time, they say the problem-solving behavior from the situation comes from the wife.
Huh.
So they say it's more evident that the money-related marital conflicts lead to problem-solving for that conflict for the wife.
Huh.
Even though sometimes they don't have a solution.
Yeah.
But the problem-solving of the discussion come from the wife.
Okay.
So like the man get anger and the wife get depressed and try to fix the conflict.
I would think that the person who's more angry about it will have more like fire behind them to try to get out of the situation. But
if you think about,
sometimes anger clouds your judgment.
Exactly.
Too, right?
I think when people answer with anger, it's not a discussion anymore.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the anger kind of leads to a defensiveness system where you're just trying to not have the conversation anymore. Because you can run out of arguments. You're just acting.
Okay.
You're just yelling.
You're just mad.
You're just saying words that hurt the other person. You're not trying to solve the problem. I think that's why I think in my head, I see anger a lot as a defensiveness mechanism. Like, I don't want to discuss this. I'm just going to yell. I'm just going to do whatever behavior anger can do. And then the other person will shut up, will not try to discuss.
Okay.
And they say that's one of the most behaviors they see relate to money. Conflicts in a marriage.
Yeah. Okay.
And most of the time, the answer is like, we will discuss later.
Yeah. And then it comes back up again. You know, you keep pushing it off.
I think that's why maybe money is one of the more recurring fact of discussion in a relationship.
Yeah, I think because like it's
because I always going to discuss later. and one of the person in the relationship will be acting anger, they'll never be able to fix anything. I think that's why it's so important. I think since the beginning, you start understanding what's your goal. What is your goal and what's the other person's goal, and see if they match.
Right.
Because I think from my own experience, not just with our relationship, in relationships I have in the past, if you start a relationship and you know the other person have a completely different goal, it's a mistake if you think that things will change later.
Right, just after you get like in a more serious relationship or married.
Yeah, like, oh no, the person will change, or like, oh, that she will change her mind, or he will change his mind. I don't think that happens. I think you need to consider the person the moment you met them.
Yeah.
Is that person the one you want to stay in a longer relationship?
That's like, so number 3 on this Forbes 10 ways to prevent money ruining your marriage, I think that's the title, is you need to understand your partner's money mindset. Yeah, so if the partner is constantly spending money and you are a saver, I don't know if that can ever work out, unless the person who was spending a ton of money was just uneducated. Maybe a little bit of financial literacy will help. Yeah, I think that can be really dangerous. If you have different goals, if you're like, hey, I want to save, I want to have money in the future, and they're like, I think I'm going to die in my 30s, so I want to spend it all right now, that's always going to be a cause for like conflict.
Yeah, and I do think, because here in this podcast, we are talking about being financially independent.
Yeah.
Right? I do think it is a path that definitely not happen in one day and definitely not happen in 2 years.
No.
It's definitely a process.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't have a support system, like if you have a partner and that partner is not your support system, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
Because I think when you're single and you're going through that path, it's easier. It's just you. It's just your mindset, your own style of life. You can do it. But when you're married and the other person has a completely different perspective of that, is how can you reach that financial independence? You
never will. Unless you are like absolutely separate financially, which I don't think is the best way to do things. If you're the saver and you have a ton of money and then your spouse wants to do something but they don't have a ton of money, they can be like, you're hogging all your money, but
it can lead to conflict. It can definitely lead to conflict, like who's going to pay, or, oh, but it's my money, I'm doing this. No, but it's my money, I'm doing that. So I think that's why I think it was important for us to talk about and create this episode.
Yeah.
To help people, like, because our perspective is for a marriage couple, right? If you listen to this and you're single, it's a complete different talk, right? It's a different perspective. But as a couple, I think it's really important to understand how money can be an important topic and can be affecting your relationship.
Totally.
One of the things to consider that the article brings to discussion is that regardless of the amount of the available funds, so it doesn't matter if it was the couple that have 10,000 or 100,000, the same members of the family will feel relatively different about how they understand money, and some of them can feel different about what they consider being deprived.
Okay.
Even the couple who make a lot of money can feel deprived.
Okay, yeah.
Because they have different ideas of how to spend money.
Sure, they have different ideas of how their life would look if they're making $80,000 in the early 2000s.
So they can feel deprived about how they perceive money, or how they can access the money, or how they can spend the money.
Okay.
So imagine if you're a couple, you make more than 100,000 a year.
Sure.
Or style of life will be different, right? If you're not the person who cares about saving, we just have a normal. So like maybe eating the most expensive restaurant is really important for one of them. Or having the most expensive brands to go in a meeting in a family can be really, really important for them.
But in that case, I think we're back to the same, like, how you want to live your life. Like, if there's somebody who like wants to live very frugally or something, and then there's somebody who wants to wear the best brands, have the best car, and they're feeling deprived, I don't think that conversation was had. I don't think they're like compatible in terms of like a marriage. This is probably a marriage that will end up in divorce.
Yeah. I also think like what they're trying to say here, it's not even about one person in a relationship want to be frugal and the other person spending. Even considering both of them are spending people, they will still have different ways of feeling deprived. And I think the most important subject here is like how each one of them can have access to the money and how they can spend the money. So for example, if we're a couple, you are making $100,000, I'm just making $20,000, but we do have a style of life, correctly? And let's say just because you make $100,000, you feel that have more power in the relationship to make money decisions over the person who have $20,000. So even though the financials can be together, the person can make more money, can feel more powerful over the decisions.
Okay.
So then the person who have 20,000 can feel deprived by their access to the money, mainly because sometimes they need to ask permission, or maybe they need to ask like, hey, can we go to this vacation? Because the money for that is not coming totally from their income.
Right.
It's mainly come from the other partner's income. So I think that's interesting to think about how the couple can access the money they have and the relationship of power that can exist.
Yeah. I mean, depending on what the other person does, like, you know, if somebody's making $100,000, the other person's making 20. I mean, it really depends on the relationship. Like, technically, the money should all be the same, you know, but like somebody who feels deprived, if you give them money, I feel like that's like you're just like, go, spend, you know.
The pose of that is also thinking about the person that makes a lot of money kind of limitates or controls too much how much can be expanding, or like limited the other person approach to accessing the money. I'm talking about if saving is not important for any of them.
If both of them are okay, I mean, if saving is not important for both of them, then like they're only being deprived by their limit of income.
Exactly. Or being deprived by the other partner decision. I think that's what I'm trying to say basically is one of the person in a relationship cannot have access to the money because the other person said, no, it's my money.
Okay.
So we're not going to do this vacation, or you're not going to buy this, or I'm not going to bring you to this restaurant. You know, so that leads a conflict. I think that's what the research is trying to say. It's about the ability to have access to the fund, and that happen even when the couple just make 10,000.
Yeah.
But one of the partners making more.
Okay.
So I think that's why it's really important as a couple to sit together and say, hey, these expenses are both of ours. Like, this vacation is for both of us. And in our case, for example, we have a common account. We both put both our salaries in the same account, and both of us have access to it.
Right.
But imagine if a couple don't have that. One of them have their own account, the other person has their own account, and the person have making more money don't give the other person access to that fund. The other person always needs to ask for permission to doing something.
I know. I feel like I want to push back on that, because I'm like, if the person who makes more money is restricting the other person from accessing it, then like maybe the person can just go make more money. You know, like if you are feeling deprived with the amount of your money you're making, and for some reason you guys didn't combine your expenses, or like they are actively restricting you, then one, maybe you spend way more than you should. If that money isn't yours, then it's not yours. You can't just expect people to say, oh, you want to go and buy this brand new purse? Here, take the money that I work for in here. Unless it's like somebody's a stay-at-home parent. And
yeah, that's how I was going to bring in topic. I think we also need to be careful when we say these affirmations because, for example, if the couple get together and the woman decide, okay, I'm going to stay home and have a kid, I just work part-time.
Yeah.
And then you would kind of expect some kind of respect, I assume, from your partner to say like, okay, I'm going to work, I'm making more, but the money will be for both of us.
Yeah.
So like, it's hard to think about it. Then the other partner buy whatever they want, go to the bar with their friends or go expanding. The other person can never expand, can always stay with the kids, can never get what they want. So I think that's why the balance and the conflict can come from.
Yeah. I think that needs to be a mutual decision.
Yeah.
Like if the mother or like one of the parents wants to stay home and the other spouse is like, hey, I don't think we should, then I don't know. That's the importance of being on the same page, right? You have to be on the same page. Like maybe even before this happens.
Yeah, I think that's why this is a really complicated topic to talk about because there's so many different situations out there that we don't have idea.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we always bring to people's mind that we are here sharing our story. We are here trying to like discuss the topic, but always remember we are not professionals, we are not psychologists.
And even the professionals and the psychologists still don't know an exact answer. Otherwise, I think there wouldn't be money problem.
And so they say that related to that issue, family members, the couple, perceive social power, relative worth, feelings of being valued. All these may be significantly affected by their capacity on engaging decision making about money.
Okay, so they correlate their value with how much power they have on the decision making with money.
They feel, basically they can feel inferior or not respect or not estimated by the other person if they cannot have a saying in a decision about money.
Okay. Yeah, so, and then they feel powerless. Right.
And I think it's basically a relationship of, it's kind of like a relationship of power. Marriage, it is in some aspects, if you think about that psychologically speaking, because if just one person has all the saying, the other one kind of lost their own individuality,
right?
Their own desires, their own personality, because they can never have a say. So that's why I think it's so important that if it's possible for the couple, that both of them have their own income. Yeah. If it's possible.
Have their own income or, even have like a spending budget that everybody agrees on, then like even the person who makes more of the money is only spending like a certain amount. I don't know, a couple, whatever dollar amount you want a week. And then the rest of it goes to like saving for, I don't know, retirement or...
like having a budget for vacation, having a budget for eating out, having a budget for saving for retirement, having a budget buying a home, having a budget for education for your kids.
Exactly.
I think like all of that need to be discussed and need to be on the same page for both of them. And both of them should have the same power of decision.
Okay, yeah.
Like, I want more money for vacation, and the other person like, okay, but I want more money for my retirement. So both of them, okay, let's get a middle term. Let's save this and this for both, And I think that can sound ridiculous, but I really, really believe that people should start discussing that. Not like money for retirement, but how they handle money or how they see themselves with money since the beginning of the relationship. Since the relationship becomes serious. Like an official relationship.
Oh yeah, people need to get on the same page about money.
Because I think people underestimate the importance of money and how people deal and how people understand that. And when they think that's not an important factor when deciding if you're going to get married to that person or not. But should be, because as we can see, it's a topic that directly affects people's relationship.
Yeah, and it's just known. And I know this research was done in the late 1990s, early 2000, but I don't think people's interactions with money have changed and how it affects relationships. I really don't think it changes.
And interesting, I also think that's really interesting. They conclude, the couples show in the research, that discussing about money was the most socially acceptable topic that people can admit arguing about.
Oh, okay.
I do think, for example, I think it's interesting. I imagine, particularly, for example, sex life is probably one of the topics that is not socially accepted to be discussing.
Yeah.
Right? But why money, it is acceptable to be discussing?
Because everybody knows it's a common problem. People joke about, there's the memes. Me, I really need to save money. I mean, also me, spending blah, blah, blah on Amazon. It's a joke that people are, really bad with money. Or people admit, oh, I'm not good with money. And, they just accept that.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know why it's socially acceptable versus, something else, but I think it's just, a common thing.
I think it's less of a taboo.
Yeah.
Discussing about money, because that become, as you say, become like a joke. Become even in your family, when we go meeting families or meeting friends, we can joke about it. Even though it can be a serious topic, but we can laugh about it.
Yeah.
When other topics become like a taboo. But at the same time, I wonder if because we joke more, we tend more to not consider that as a problem.
Yeah, probably. People just accept it. They're like, oh yeah, this is the way it is. Everybody has money issues.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's
it's normal to be where you are. It's normal to argue about money. It's interesting that, and then the psychologists will conclude that money is one of the most emotional topics of discussion.
Yeah.
It's one of the topics that will show more people's vulnerabilities.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because, scarcity of money can lead to scarcity of food, scarcity of housing, scarcity of whatever else, comfort. So,
and I think more stress money can relate, you will answer emotionally according to your vulnerability. Okay. I think that's why some people get defensive, some people get anger, some people cry.
Yeah.
Some people will even be violent because they don't know how to deal. That money will highlight your vulnerability, your emotional vulnerability. Sometimes we play the victim.
Yeah.
Some people will try to manipulate the situation for their own fact. So that will definitely show people's vulnerability.
Exactly.
It's an interesting topic. I think money can highlight so much of our personality that's why it affects relationship, because relationship is all about emotions, right?
Yeah.
It's about how you deal with problems in your life.
But also it's just because money is related to everything. Your livelihood, your comforts, how much food you have in the fridge, and it can, you're right, it highlights that's what people say. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it can highlight the things that you already are.
And we are going to the conclusion of the article, and the researchers will say about how the evidence indicates that categories of angry, depressive, positive conflict behaviors are associated with the spouse's psychological well-being. And therefore warrant investigation in particularly stressful disagreement contexts. So they say how you answer to the money conflict in a relationship will show your psychological well-being in general. So because the recurrent conflict and it's a conflict that brings people vulnerability, emotional vulnerability. That is one of the conflicts that can show how your mental health is in general.
Yeah. You know,
I think it's crazy.
It highlights everything about you. It highlights everything about you.
Also highlight the importance of people taking care of your mental health. For conflict in general, I cannot not relate to the topic we discussed in the previous episode about stress and money, where they are showing like people with more problems with money will have more stressful life and will lead for more mental health and mental issue, and people will be more unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean also that just not only like emphasizes the importance of like taking care of your mental health, but taking care of your money so that you can take care of your mental health, so that you can take care of your relationships, so that you can just in general live a better life.
Exactly. And I do think that's so important, and I think that's why it was so interesting to bring this episode and talk about it.
Exactly.
Just to people to be able to understand, like, okay, I need to deal with money. And if a couple is listening to us, they say like, okay, I'm reacting certain way, that's kind of creating a block or a wall for us to actually sit and resolve the issue. Because what the research showed was like people react in some ways, even if depression or anger, doesn't matter, they react in a way that push the conversation for later. And never ends. So it's always coming back. I think it's important for us to talk about it, to not create a taboo around discussing about money in a healthy way.
Exactly.
And not making a joke about it, but actually understanding what the cause is and trying to find a solution.
And improve your situation.
I really want to highlight that even though couples have the same goal, doesn't mean they are not going to have conflicts about money.
Yeah.
We have conflicts, and I think it's normal. The only thing is that we try to find a healthy way to talk about it and consider other person's feelings about it and try to find a middle way. So if it's not happening in your relationship, you can try to find a way to make that happen and maybe see your own reactions to the topic and see, I'm being defensive and I'm playing the victim, I'm trying to manipulate, or I'm being violent. What I'm doing, what can I do to be better? And I think that can bring health individually, like mental health, and a healthy relationship.
All right.
I think that was a really complicated topic.
Episode, yeah.
Yes.
All right, guys. So if you like this episode, go ahead and like and subscribe, tell a friend, and we'll see you in the next episode.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to the Coming Out FI podcast. If you like this podcast, please remember to like, share, and leave a review. Leaving a 5-star rating and a review would be really helpful. Also, you can find us on YouTube at Coming Out FI, where you can watch the videos of our podcast and extras.